All right, great. So I will call to order the March meeting of the Bloomington Board of Park Commissioners. And Kim, can you start us off with the roll call, please?
Yes. Kathleen Mills.
Here.
Ellen Rodkey.
Here.
Israel Herrera.
Here.
James Whitlatch.
Here.
Okay. Thank you. And also thanks to Kim, we've had the consent calendar, the minutes, claims submitted from last month, non-reverting budget amendments, business report, and any surplus. We've had that since last Friday to look over. So do we have a motion for approval of the consent calendar?
I'll move to approve.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor, please say aye.
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 All right. And then before we get into the other business, Israel, I don't know if this is a good place for you to, since you're our representative to the Plan Commission, to maybe give us a bit of an update.
Yes, sure. So in the Plan Commission, we have been discussing and having public comment regarding the Unified Development Ordinance. This started on March 8th. And yesterday, we also met for different text amendments, and also for some recommendations and suggestions from the committee, the Plan Commission Committee, and also from the public. We are going to meet. Tomorrow is Wednesday. No, tomorrow is we're going to meet on Thursday. You can have access to all the documents on the Plan Commission website. And tomorrow there is going to be discussion, conversation related to duplexes, triplexes, and fourplexes. Is the only item for the agenda tomorrow. Yesterday, we discussed different text amendments for Chapter 3, 4, 6, and 7, and also the discussion about the deletion of RE zoning, the RE zoning district. The conversation will continue then on March 29th, where when we are going to discuss the official zoning map. So you are welcome to send us comments, your concerns, and I will be able also to bring this to the Plan Commission either tomorrow or our following meeting on March 25th. And I also invite you, commissioners, if you have any concern or any information that I should just convey to the Plan Commission, I am open to do that as well with Paula, with your department. If there is anything that I need to bring to the table, I will be happy to do that. Once again, on Thursday, the 25th, when there is going to be, we anticipate a big discussion about the duplexes, triplexes, and fourplexes.
Okay, yeah, thank you very much, Israel. That has been, yes, hotly contested locally, so it's good to know where we can provide some input for that. Thank you. All right, and then into our other business, it's almost like business as usual. It's getting less and less to be strangely pandemic and more like these are all the things that happen in the spring for the Parks Department. So that's nice. So we'll start with the review of policies about job postings and succession planning. Leslie Brenson.
Good afternoon, Leslie Brinson, the Community Events Manager. As we have been doing over the last, 6 or 8 months, we have been thoroughly looking through our policy manual and updating policies as needed. These are one policy for an update and one brand new policy that we bring today. The first one is policy 4050 related to job postings. This policy has just been updated to make sure that we are in compliance and in coordination with the Human Resources Department as far as where they post full-time job positions, as well as the requisition for posting process through human resources. So it's just been updated. Some things have been removed, some have been added, but just more up to date about where we post full-time and part-time job positions. The second is policy 4220. This is a new policy. Although the procedures within the policy have been taking place for many years through the accreditation process and some of the standards they ask us, we felt like it needed to have a more formal policy in place. So we are just taking the procedure for succession planning if the administrator is not able to do their duty, whether they're out of town or vacation or whatever the situation might be. There is a process to pass on that authority of within the department and then within the mayor's office if for some reason it's needed. So again, the policy has been approved and the process has been approved by the mayor's office, but we're just formally putting it into a policy. I'd be happy to answer any questions about either of the two policies.
Okay, thank you, Leslie. Any questions or comments from board members?
I have a question. In today's world, I mean, how does this get implemented? For instance, the administrator out of the office anymore, what does that mean? Have we given any thought to that? And does it automatically come into play simply because they're out of the office, or does some further action need to happen?
You're absolutely right. We're all out of the office a lot these days, but this would be if the administrator was unable to complete their duties for that time period. So they need to be on vacation, medical leave, something where they're not going to be responding to questions, concerns, emails, phone calls, not available for staff for questions. So it's not just that they're not in the office, but they are not doing their duties, their job duties for that particular time frame.
Okay.
Okay.
That's all I have.
Okay, good clarification there. Yes, since as you point out, we're all out of the office. Okay, any other questions or comments about these two policy updates? If not, we can go ahead and take a motion on this one.
So Kathleen, I have just one question, quick question.
Sorry, go ahead.
I'm looking at the list of external organizations, and I wonder if maybe I don't find it, maybe it's there, but I wonder if we have the Neil Marshall, the Black Cultural Center at Indiana University.
I don't have the full policy list in front of me, but I certainly think we can take a look at that one, and if it's not on there, add it. I know the list was worked on together with Kim as well as HR, but if it's not on the list, we certainly want to, make sure that it's accurate. And so I can certainly confirm with Human Resources whether that is an option and something that they do and that we could add perhaps in the future.
I think it's actually on here. It's just not called Marshall. It's just called Black Cultural Center. So I assume that means Neil Marshall. I don't know if there's another one, but
no, it's the same one. So okay. The other thing is the IU Latino Faculty Council, because I see La Casa, and once again, maybe Kathleen, you might help me because my eyes are kind of old. So I don't know if we have the Latino faculty, because we have Latino Studies, we have Latino Culture Center, but it is also the Latino Faculty Council that normally sends information from the community, and there is an alliance with several organizations in our city.
I don't recall that one being on there. I thought Neil Marshall was on there, but I wasn't positive. But I can certainly, again, follow up with Human Resources and Kim and make sure that the list, that we review that list, or, you know, that as an option.
Okay, thank you.
And Israel, if you would like to send me a list of those that you would like on there, then we can research that and we can have those names. The list we use mirrors what HR does, but that doesn't say we can't do a few extra.
Okay. Thank
Okay.
you. Perfect. Sounds great. Sorry.
Okay, no, you're fine. Good questions. So, okay, are we ready for a motion on these 2 policy updates?
Move we approve the 2 policy updates.
I'll second.
All right, all those in favor, please say aye.
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 All right, motion is carried. All right, thank you, Leslie. And the next up, Jess Klein will revisit for us this longstanding partnership that we've had with IU Health.
Hi, good afternoon. I'm just giving Kim a second to pull up this slide for you.
Sure.
I'll go ahead and get started in the background. So good afternoon. I am Jess Klein. I'm the Health and Wellness Coordinator for the Bloomington Parks and Recreation Department. Today, I am recommending the approval of the partnership agreement with IU Health Bloomington. Our 2 organizations have been in partnership and working together for quite a long time. The first formal agreement was signed in 2010. The partnership consists of 8 strategic action plan items. These include areas like sports medicine, marketing, employee wellness, health and wellness programming, and a few more. This plan and this agreement allow us to collaborate on programs, committees, events, and such as the 50 Plus Expo, the ASA softball tournament, the Children's Expo, the Tobacco Free Coalition of Monroe County, and of course the Get On Board Active Living, otherwise known as the GOAL program. That's just a short list of everything included. There's a whole lot more to think of. So our partnership remains strong throughout 2020 and the global pandemic, with even more collaboration and innovation happening to meet community needs. We're confident that the continuation of this partnership will provide benefits to both constituencies that we serve, while also furthering the mission of both our organizations. As mentioned, the GOAL program is a really large part of our partnership, and it's a really big part of my role here with this department and working with IU Health quite frequently. So tonight, we actually have a representative of IU Health here with us. Katie Dooley is the program manager of GOAL, and she's going to talk just a little bit about that program and how it plays into our partnership.
Thanks, Jess. Hi, I'm Katie Dooley. I'm from IU Health. I'm the Get On Board Active Living Program Manager. This partnership with Parks has been in place since August of 2010, so since our program began. They're one of our founding members and one of our strongest partners in this program. So for those that do not know about it, we are a childhood obesity prevention program. So we've been working in regards to healthy living with families and obesity prevention. Parks provides things for our program such as space, transportation that many of our families might not have, as well as just mentioned, a lot of her time that's dedicated to this program to be an additional staff member. So our success of this program over the last 10 years in large is because of this partnership. And it's very unique to the Bloomington community. So we really appreciate their support as we continue. Throughout the pandemic, we still have been operating, had to make a lot of adjustments. Obviously, we are an in-person family-based program. So I would like to be active with families. That has not been a possibility. So we've been operating in a virtual environment and have been hosting cohorts that way. So Jess and Parks have been supporting us still in that manner.
Okay,
Thank you, Katie. And I'm just happy to answer any questions.
Okay, great. Thank you, Jess. Any questions or comments from board members? Okay, great. Lots of great work teaming up with IU Health and the community, and I'm sure you'll be back to all the in-person activities soon. So I think we'll go ahead and take a motion on this one.
Good stuff. I go ahead and recommend approval, motion to approve.
I'll second.
Okay, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
All right, motion carried. Thank you, Jess.
Thank you.
Okay, and then Leslie Brinson is going to tell us about another partnership agreement with the library for the story walk at Reverend Butler Park.
Yes, again, Leslie Brinson, Community Events Manager. I am here to ask approval of a partnership with the Monroe County Library for a story walk at Reverend Butler Park. We initially brought this partnership to you in the fall of 2017. It seems hard to believe that it was that long ago. Seems like just the other day. But the library and this partnership still continues to be a success. I've talked to our operations division as well as the public library, and both seem happy with how things are working. The library changes out the story within the boxes a couple times a year. They are in charge of all the maintenance of the stands and the box that the book is in. And then Parks communicates with them if there is any vandalism or anything has happened as we're out in the parks, but the library is responsible for the boxes themselves. They again do some programming related around the story walk, advertise it within their means through their social media and at the library, but overall it's just a self-guided story walk that I think is a nice added bonus at Reverend Butler Park, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Okay, thanks, Leslie. And I do remember the other story walk. I feel like, was it in a different location the last time around?
The only one we've done has been at Reverend Butler Park, and it is the same, but I think the library has worked with Monroe County Parks and are working on getting some additional story walks in other parks, but the only one that we have ever had has been at Butler Park.
Butler Park, okay, all right, thank you. Any other questions or comments for Leslie?
I just love this program always, so I'm excited to see it again.
Okay, great. Yeah, it's a clever idea to take the story out into the parks. So, all right. We have it. I don't want to rush through. I'm just trying to be aware that we have a lot of items today. So,
I will move to approve.
yeah. Okay. Any other questions? Yeah. Okay.
I'll second.
All right. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 All right, motion is carried. Thank you, Leslie.
Thank you.
And then Rebecca Swift will tell us about another partnership agreement, also with the library, for the Park Crawl program.
Good evening, good afternoon. Rebecca Swift, Natural Resources Coordinator for the City of Bloomington. Came prepared with some visuals because who doesn't love visuals? I actually brought this partnership agreement before you last spring, but through COVID, we were unable to promote this program. So we're trying it again this year, and we consider it COVID, quote unquote, friendly, because it's something that people can do on their own with their own friends, family, or just completely individually. So the goal of this program is to encourage sustainable lifestyle choices and sustainable modes of transportation, like biking, walking, running, scooting, or riding a bus. So all of the parks that you see on this list have a bus route accessible to it. We also use this map to highlight different features at our parks, the story walk being one of them at Reverend Ernest of Butler Park. And for those participants who complete the park crawl, they're rewarded with a metal reusable straw. So not only is this partnership just meant to kind of lay out some responsibilities, discuss how we're going to help market and promote this program, as well as share some of the costs for both printing and the purchase of those metal reusable straws. I'd be happy to answer any questions, and I hope you all participate this spring.
Okay. Yeah, it sounds healthier than a pub crawl, which I assume is where the name came from. So yeah, very clever. Okay. Any questions for Rebecca?
I move to approve.
Okay.
I'll second.
All right. All those in favor say aye.
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 All right, that motion is carried. And then Rebecca will also tell us about a contract with Easy Dock. Oh, this is the, new dock at Griffith Lake Boathouse.
Yes, I'm also here to recommend a service agreement with Easy Dock of Mid-America LLC. This service agreement would be for the delivery and the installation of a new kayak launch out of Griffith. So if any of you came out to the lake this spring or summer, you know that it was very busy. A lot of people were seeking recreational opportunities. And sometimes our existing kayak launch boat launch got congested. So we're hoping that this helps a little bit with traffic, as well as just giving people with their own kayaks an additional option of a safe and easy way to launch their boat. I did call around to a couple local marinas who also have this kayak launch, and they couldn't say anything but wonderful things about it, and just how their users really enjoy the addition. So right now, we currently already have one ADA transfer bench system out there at Griffith, if you're familiar with the setup out there. So this would be added on to the existing dock to allow for 2 launch sites out there. Be happy to answer any questions if you have any.
Okay, great. Yeah, so that was one of my questions you just answered, but whether it would be in addition to. And I know that the lake has been super busy during COVID, as people feel like it's safe to get outdoors there. So any questions for Rebecca about this? It looks cool.
You mentioned it was a service agreement. Is it a service agreement, or is that the price to purchase the actual dock?
It's both the price for the dock and the labor to install and delivery costs.
Okay. And does that have to be taken out in the winter, or how does that? So it can be there.
It's a floating dock. Yeah.
Okay. All right. I have no other questions.
Okay. All right. I think we're ready for
Move to approve.
Yeah, I'll second.
All those in favor say aye.
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 All right. Motion's carried. Thank you, Rebecca.
Thank you.
And then Tim Street will be up to tell us about some BuskirkChumley things that need to be updated to meet the fire code.
Hello, good afternoon, board. Tim Street, Operations Director with Parks. The first item I have for you this afternoon is regarding to the BuskirkChumley Theater. If you're not familiar, Parks Department does maintain some responsibility over the structure at the BuskirkChumley Theater, though the day-to-day operations are managed through the actual leadership team of the BuskirkChumley. That said, a short while ago, a fire inspection identified some deficiencies in the sprinkler system in the auditorium up high, specifically 9 sprinkler heads that needed to be repaired, needed to have new covers put in. And additionally, we found that a sprinkler in one of the upstairs bathrooms had been disconnected. So we called around and got some quotes and are recommending approval with B-Tech Fire and Security for $6,550 to make those necessary repairs. There is a time factor involved. We have a variance from the fire inspector that expires at the end of May. And so we were hoping to make these repairs in April.
Okay. Go ahead.
Have they, question, have they done, is the rest of the system been checked, or to make sure that everything else is operational, not just the sprinklers, but any other components of the system? Is it regularly checked?
Yes, the BuskirkChumley leadership does manage annual and periodic checks of the system that would incorporate any other fire inspection elements.
Okay, thank you.
And it looks like if anything else comes up, it's clarified here. We might, if there's some other unknown issues they discover, that would be handled in a separate issue. Yeah. Okay. Separate.
Yes.
Agreement. Okay. All right. Do we have any other questions about?
Right. So just thank you, Tim. So there were 9, and I wondered in previous times, is that a regular number, or is this a number not expected?
That's a great question, Israel. I've been trying to kind of get up to speed on the sprinkler system there and its history with some of the staff there. Overall, we're probably talking about 80 sprinkler heads throughout the building. And so these 9 just happen to have, there's actually covers that are kind of like escutcheons that go up on top of them that basically are just a protective element, and those covers had fallen off. And so that's the reason why these 9 need to be repaired, because code dictates that even though these are way up high in the auditorium, they still have to have the covers on them. Moving forward over the next 10, 20 years, we will probably need to look at, a program of replacing sprinkler heads periodically as it makes sense to get a company in there to build the scaffolding to get the access needed. For now, the focus is on getting the 9 done and making sure we're up to code before the variance expires in April. And before we get out of COVID and the Buskirk's able to have programming again, we would hate to come back in and shut them down for repairs right when they're getting back on their feet.
Okay, and just sorry for this ignorance here, but the one in the second level, it was just a disconnection. It's just something that regular happen, like being disconnected, or how can this happen?
That's a great question. I'm not sure how in the past it had been disconnected. It looked like as part of maybe some other repair that had happened in the past, the line had been disconnected. And we discovered this, and it's a fairly simple plumbing repair to make that repair as part of this.
Thank you, Tim. No more questions, Kathleen.
Okay. All right. So I think we're ready for a motion on this one.
Move to approve.
I'll second.
All right. All those in favor, say aye.
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 All right. Motion unanimously carried. And then Tim will also tell us about the impact memo with Structure Point.
Sure. So the memo is with Structure Point. This relates to the Clear Creek Trail. If you've been on the Clear Creek Trail, you might be familiar with a section of the trail that runs just past the end of Gordon Pike. The county actually has plans to connect Fullerton Pike, which now has an exit on 69, which you can see at the left side of the screen, all the way over to Gordon Pike, creating a new east-west corridor on the south side of Bloomington. You can see the Clear Creek Trail kind of running through the middle there along the creek. The Department of Transportation has certain protocols that dictate that natural areas, parks, things like that are designated for F resources. And in order for a county or a jurisdiction to be able to build a new method of transportation, such as a road, the managing agency has to agree that the impact is de minimis. So Structure Point is the consulting agency with the county on this. They are creating the plans. They first met with the Parks Department with Dave Williams and Mark Merritts back in August of 2020, at which point some feedback was given to them about what we felt like needed to be done to minimize the impacts to the trail and to the users of the trail. They came back to us last month with their revised recommendations for how they would proceed, which minimize the amount of trail closure time to about a week, maybe 2 weeks, by creating detours. We feel that this meets the de minimis impact. This will not adversely affect the trail. They will complete the bridge over the trail. They will lower the trail actually a few feet, still well above the flood line, and will detour traffic on some workarounds, paved workarounds up Gordon Pike and down the other side while this is going on. So we are recommending approval that we sign this memo with Structure Point to work with the county, and eventually would also create an MOU with the county to dictate who has the responsibility over, the lights on the bridge and things like that. Happy to answer questions.
Okay. Any questions from board members for Tim? Okay. I'm just impressed that that the trail might just have to be closed or, for a week or 2 weeks, or that seems like a pretty short amount of time for this. So, okay. All right. I think, are we ready for a motion then?
Move to approve.
I'll second.
Okay. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 All right. That motion is carried. Thank you, Tim.
Thank you.
And then Joanna Sparks will tell us about the service agreement for boundary survey work.
Good afternoon. Joanna Sparks here, the city landscaper. I'm here today to recommend approval of a service agreement with Bledsoe Riggert Cooper James for professional survey services on an as-needed basis. The funding sources would be the operations division budget as well as the landscaping budget, and it would be for an amount not to exceed $9,999. And the services they would perform would be on an as-needed basis, as I said, for contract or construction layout services or boundary retracement. Ops has a lot of projects going on. So in the interest of being efficient, if something were to come up that we needed to have some survey work done, we just like to have a service agreement in place so we could move forward with that, keep the projects moving. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Joanna, and has the Parks Department worked with them before for surveying needs? Do you know, or?
Yes, we have for many years.
Okay.
Yeah, and then, they provided professional survey services in the past. Offhand, I can say Park Ridge East, Bryan Park, trying to think, other places as well. And yeah.
Okay.
We've been satisfied with their work.
Okay. All right. Any questions from board members?
No questions.
Okay.
I can move to approve.
Sure. Okay. And do we have a second?
I second.
Okay. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
All right. Thank you, Joanna. I think that motion is carried.
Thank you.
And then B9, Steve Cotter will tell us about a control burn at Griffith Lake Nature Preserve.
Hello, thank you. Excuse me. We are hoping to contract with a firm called Habitat Solutions, who did a prescribed burn at Griffith on the west side of Headley Road about a year ago. And this time we would like to burn on the east side of Headley Road above the parking lot. So just north of the parking lot near the boathouse. This activity was recommended by the Division of Nature Preserves, mainly to promote the growth of oak and hickory. Those forests are thought to be more resilient to climate change, and they are also more valuable to wildlife species. In addition to promoting the growth of oak and hickory, and that is done by reducing the amount of shade that hits the forest floor so that the oak seedlings and hickory seedlings can get enough light to grow. It also helps reduce the stagnation of air around some of these big trees. Oak trees especially are very vulnerable to fungal diseases. And if the air is not moving and there's not enough light around the trunks of these big old trees, they tend to get fungal diseases and it damages them. But I was also going to say that this does help the ephemeral wildflower population out there as well. Spring wildflowers are an important part of the ecosystem out there. And by reducing the amount of mainly maple and beech trees that are growing up among and between the big old oaks and hickories, it helps those small plants as well. And of course, that helps all the wildlife that lives out there. And I should mention that this is also related to the deer management efforts out there. Deer really like oak trees, so it's hard to find young oaks in the preserve. So this prescribed burn helps those oak populations recover as we're trying to control the deer population to help in that regard as well. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
I've got a couple questions. I'm all for the concept and support the idea. My question's more on who's doing the burn, there's a mention that Habitat Solutions, what is their history? How long have they been around? What do we know about them?
I don't know the number of years that their firm has been around, but they have been around quite a while. Dan McGuckin is also active in the Southern Indiana Cooperative Invasive Management Group, which I helped found over 10 years ago. And I know he was around at that point doing burns. And we did ask around, and he comes highly recommended. He brought a very professional crew out last time, and they did a real good job. I forgot to mention that the Bloomington Fire Department will also be out there to help control the fire and hopefully help us make sure that all of the things that are burning are out by the time the process is completed.
My second question is, how close is the burn going to be to residential homes or any other property?
It would be at least a half a mile away from the closest home, I believe. I don't have that exact distance yet. When we do the burn plan, which Habitat Solutions will create for us, we will figure out how far they are, and we will notify those property owners.
Okay.
There are very few residences in this neighborhood, but the last time we notified the residents as well.
My final question, and then a comment, I guess. My final question, or maybe it's a question and a comment, is I noticed that as standard in our contracts, we require $1 million of general liability insurance. My question is, for something of this nature, I wonder if we know how much insurance that Habitat Solution carries, how much property damage insurance they carry, and whether or not we should consider for something of this nature require them to have more insurance. And the reason I bring that up is I happen to be in Florida right now during this meeting. Don't tell anybody, but I happen to be in Florida, and probably about 5 miles from where I sit, they did a controlled burn that got out of control and burned a whole neighborhood. And the company had $1 million worth of insurance, but the damages were in the $5 to $10 million. So it became a major issue. So I guess my concern is why I'm asking about the residential area, and this is a coastal area with much different plantings and things like that. So I'm not overly concerned about that, but I do think that it might be worth at least inquiring about how much insurance they do have, and at least give that some thought, because that could be a major issue, obviously.
I will certainly do that, and I will consult with our risk manager as well. I can say that last year we actually had hoped to burn in fall 2019, but the weather wasn't exactly right. And if it's not a perfect forecast and perfect moisture levels, they don't burn. Safety is the #1 priority. And I know that Dan McGuckin is very concerned about the image of prescribed burning in Indiana, and he's extremely cautious and definitely errs on the side of safety. Yeah. I will look into those questions and find out.
My biggest issue would be whether or not we can recommend for something of this nature to have higher limits of insurance. Would be my main recommendation, I think.
Okay, thank you. I'll find out.
I don't have anything else. Thank you.
And Steve, I assume, like with the deer hunt out at Griffith, that there'll be plenty of signage for the public and notices and that sort of thing. And then I also wondered, I have very little familiarity with prescribed burn. So, I mean, how long is this just like a one-day affair and then it's finished up, or does this go on for several days, or?
It will be a one-day event, and we will inspect for the following days to make sure that there's no mop-up needed. Sometimes if, say, an old tree has been there a while, it will burn underground in the root system, and it won't be immediately obvious at the end of the day, but we will be out there that evening and the next day and the day after if need be to make sure that those smokes, as they call them, are put out. And yes, we will have signage. It will be posted on the website and on Facebook. And we will also have staff out there to make sure that nobody inadvertently wanders into the prescribed burn unit.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Any other board member questions or comments, or anyone else want to admit that they're actually in Florida? No. All right. Okay. I think we'll take a motion on this one then.
I'll move. It's very fascinating.
I'll second.
Okay. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 That motion is unanimously carried. With this for a minute to tell us about the contract with Ecologic still out at Griffith Lake Nature Preserve.
Okay, let me bring that up. Apologize. We have been working with Ecologic for several years to monitor the growth of plants in several experimental transects. So there are 12 different transects that are monitored on an annual basis for both the height of the plants and to count flowers on the plants. And I can say that over the past 4 years, there's been a very slight improvement in the heights of the plants. They're not really showing a big improvement in the number of flowers yet. And we think that's due to the number of decades that deer have been able to browse indiscriminately out there. So we are eager to see if this trend continues, if we're able to continue the deer management program out there. And it will be the next meeting, we'll be bringing a community hunting access program contract to you for your approval.
Okay. Do we have any, we've seen Ecologic out there before to monitor things. Any questions from board members for Steve? Oh, sorry.
If I could, Kathleen, sorry, I just had a hard time finding my staff report, but I'm on it now. I found it.
Okay.
And this is a 3-year contract to continue collecting that data that I mentioned. They look at both herbaceous and woody plants. And we will compare these results to all the previous year's data. We have actually been monitoring out there since 2014 with different methods. But we think that we're onto a very good and accurate protocol. We have a good botanist who's able to interpret the data for us. He's actually contributed some video so that we can share that with the public. And we're really excited about that. So for the next 3 years, the total for the deer browse monitoring would be $28,810 if this contract is approved.
Okay. And the slight difference in prices for like 2021 and then 22 and 23, those are just little changes in their price structure from Ecologic, or?
Yes, I think they just include small increments for inflation.
Okay. All right. Any questions, other questions for Steve?
I move to approve.
I'll second.
All right. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Okay. Motion is approved unanimously. Thank you, Steve.
Thank you very much.
Kathleen.
And the Hidden River project, which we talked about, we didn't talk about it last time, it got bumped over here, but Tim Street will come back and tell us about that for the Waldron Hill Buskirk Park.
Yeah, so before that, Kathleen, for the record, the previous two ones, they were marked C8 and C9, right? So just for the agenda, I would suggest to change to B9 and B10, I believe, because they were presented as item for the CPAR.
Oh, yes, I see what you mean in the top right there. Good editing eye. Yes, so those should be changed. Yeah, thank you, Israel.
All right, hello again. Talking about the Hidden River Project. The Hidden River Project is the project that is going on in the vicinity of Lincoln and Washington around 3rd Street, which is formerly known as Waldron Hill and Buskirk Park. The Jordan River flows underneath the road there, and it is about a 100-year-old section, and the City of Bloomington Utilities is replacing the underground culvert that carries the river there and upgrading it. Part of that runs through the east side of Waldron Hill and Buskirk Park, which necessitated the playground removal. We've been working with Daniel Dixon, our council, and CBU to negotiate CBU paying for the playground to be put back in, as well as some of the concrete and other amenities that will go with the playground. This MOU just formalizes their commitment to provide $160,000 for the restoration of the playground. We will go back to them. We will get permission to go back into the easements. The intent is to put the playground back more or less where it was. Then we will engage in a RFP process for the playground, involve some stakeholders, and hopefully we'll be putting the playground back in this fall, optimistically. Any questions?
I see 4 trees are going to have to be removed. I don't know if those are fairly mature trees or are there's a way to add some more newer trees in there and replace them with other.
Yes, 4 trees have been removed as part of that. And I believe that was slightly before I started, but with tree commission and everything that went through that with Aaron Hatch, the urban forester. And there are plans to put trees back in at the end as well.
Okay. All right. Any other board member questions for Tim?
What does the $160,000, does that represent our estimate of what it will cost, or how did we come up with that number?
Yes, that estimate was provided some time ago to CBU as the estimate of what it would take to fund a new playground in the existing footprints. There will obviously be some options we'll get into with the RFP in terms of what type of surface, what level of installation we'll be using, things like that, as well as some of the concrete sidewalk. And currently, if you went to Waldron Hill and Buskirk Park, there would be just a little concrete curb that would keep the 5R, which is like the wood chip material, in as well. So it may not be exactly the same footprint going back in, but the intent is to make it similar, and that estimate was provided to put something similar back in.
Okay, so that'll cover the cost. We may put in a fancier park, which may cost more, but that's because we're willing to do that. But to put it back the way it is, 160 should cover it. Is that what I understand?
Essentially, yes. The estimate to replace it, have it installed, put it back the way it was 160,000.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, so Tim, so with the meaning of a new playground, it brings like the new playground would be placed in the same location, or why are we getting rid of the previous one?
Well, the only reason we had to get rid of the previous one was that it was impacted by the construction limits of the project. So basically the underground culvert ran close enough to where the existing playground was that it necessitated its removal.
And the new one after the repair would be placed in the same location.
Yes, that's a great question. The intent, and we've discussed this in terms of the overall park layout and plan, and feel that with school usage and the location of the Allison Jukebox building and the stage that this remains the best location for a playground. Obviously, going back into an easement, there's some level of risk going back into an easement. However, in talking to CBU and going through it with them, we fully believe that the lifespan of this project should be 100 to 115 more years as it's been this time. And the lifespan of one of our playgrounds is typically around 15 or 16 years.
Right, and this also brings the new swing bays, or?
It will replace the swing bays as well, yes.
Okay. No more questions from here.
Okay. And I'm assuming this is part of, I know CBU is on an overall mission to replace a lot of 100-year-old pipe systems in town. So, yeah. Okay, so do we have a motion on this one?
Move to approve.
I'll second.
Okay, all those in favor, please say aye.
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 Okay, motion unanimously carried. Thank you, Tim.
Thank you.
And then Aaron Hatch will tell us about the kind of continuation of some parks trees and the Wrapped in Love event.
Hi. So I have two items ahead on tonight's agenda. The first is the partnership with Middleway House Inc. This is a partnership that we had this last year and some previous years as well. This is for permitting usage of 55 city trees in the downtown area by Middleway House for their Wrapped in Love event. And I'm sure you've seen this around. They're the little kind of knitted tree sweaters that are placed on trees up and down Kirkwood around the courthouse square. And this would basically be a partnership to allow this to continue to occur for next year, basically from the 2021 to 2022 term, with trees being, with sweaters being placed on trees in September of 2021 and removed mid-March in 2022.
Okay, and yeah, I'm sure we've all seen these, and obviously, I'm assuming it doesn't hurt the trees. The trees like being wrapped in love.
That is part of the agreement.
Okay, all right.
Damages associated with the trees.
Okay. All right, do we have any questions for Aaron?
So are there new locations or the same locations in Kirkwood and the court?
These should be the same locations as last year.
Thank you, Eddie.
Okay, all right, I think we're ready for a motion on this one.
I'll move to approve.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor say aye.
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 All right, that motion is carried. And then Aaron will also stay with us for a minute to talk about a reappointment to the Tree Commission.
Yes, on the Tree Commission, there is a seat that is appointed by the Board of Park Commissioners. And the current individual in that is Carrie Bridges. And I am asking, or staff is recommending, reappointment of Carrie Bridges to continue to serve on the City of Bloomington's Tree Commission. He really is a appropriate person for this position. He is a board certified master arborist. He's tree risk assessment qualified and runs a business that's associated and specializes in plant healthcare. And he really provides a good wealth of knowledge to the Tree Commission. And this would be for another 3-year term.
Okay, all right. Any board member questions about this item?
Move to approve.
Second.
All those in favor, please say aye.
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 All right, motion is approved. Thank you, Aaron.
Thank you.
And we're just gonna keep Tim coming back all afternoon.
You can't get rid of me.
Okay, so tell us about this process for illegal street tree removals.
Absolutely. So in the first 2 months of this year, we had 2 fairly mature city trees that were cut down by private landowners without any type of consultation with the city, with Aaron Hatch. So in consultation with Aaron, with Paula, with Daniel, our counsel, we've been reviewing our notice of violation procedure. This is based off of a similar procedure that was approved by the board a short time ago. I'm not sure of the exact date, but dealing with tree abatements. So when we would ask a property owner to take care of a tree on their property that was causing a public danger. So based on that procedure, looking at our notice of violation processes, as well as the city code, chapter 1224, that deals with trees and flora. We we just revamped this process. We revisited it for board approval. And so what we're asking tonight is, number one, that the board reviews this process. And that number two, the board reaffirms the City of Bloomington Parks Department as its delegate in these matters, which would allow us to then issue the actual notices of violation and pursue corrective action and or fines. Corrective action and fines are actually two different categories here. So these two instances that we've had so far this year, we've been waiting to reaffirm this procedure with Park Board, with you all this evening, at which point we would then work on the actual notices of violation to these private landowners, dealing with corrective actions and or fines as appropriate. There's a lot of detail in the staff report there. Maybe I'll kind of stop there and I'm happy to answer any questions.
So I'm guessing corrective action might be something like replacing the trees.
It could. So we have a few options. We could ask them to, or for example, it could be stump removal. Corrective action could just be an official warning. We could just say, hey, we're just issuing you an official warning. So there's a range of things we could do. In talking with Aaron, our urban forester, the challenges involved with getting a private landowner to appropriately select, source, and plant a tree to the city specs are fairly robust. So the corrective action rather could be charging a fine that is appropriate to the level needed to take the corrective action on ourselves. Our intent here is not to be punitive with folks. We want to be educational in nature and make sure that people understand, trees in the right of way belong to everyone, and that in consultation with the urban forester, sometimes things can be done, but that private landowners cannot just take action with publicly owned trees on their own without consultation.
So these were in a public right of way, not, okay, all right.
Yes, correct.
How does this, how are you notified when a tree is taken down without approval? Is it just through, just regular checking, auditing?
It can be, for sure. But in both of these instances, we had other members of the public, neighbors, contact us and let us know what was going on. In both instances, too late to stop the action. They were already either in progress or wrapping up. But we were able to go out there shortly thereafter and verify that they were removed.
And I guess there's no, there's nothing in place where unless the person did it themselves, if they contracted a tree removal service, there's not like the tree removal service doesn't necessarily have to get a permit or approval or something like that to take down a tree.
Well, yes, exactly. So, and Aaron, I might call Aaron back on to help answer that question. Aaron, do you want to take that one?
Yeah, so there is a tree work permit that we have in place, and that we have noted in the ordinance that members of the public or their contractors for any work that's being done on a city tree, typically a street tree, people are supposed to ask permission to remove the tree, to do pruning that's above a certain size or amount of the canopy, to do any sort of chemical treatment, say you're applying pesticides to a city tree. So there is a permit, it's on our website. So that is something that could have been sought out. And most of the time, if say it's a hazard tree removal or another removal, that's something people can reach out to us and we evaluate the tree and then conduct those removals as well.
Question that and Ellen, I'm sorry, did you have any more follow-up to that?
Yeah, go ahead, you're good.
The two instances that we have, I don't need names or specifics, but were they in a city tree plot, or where were these trees located that were removed that have caused us to revisit this issue?
Aaron?
I'll answer that one. One was located within a clearly delineated city tree plot. So your traditional tree plot where you have a sidewalk on one side and the street on the other. The other was within the city right of way, but could have been perceived as front lawn. But those are still considered street trees or city trees.
And I guess my question was going to be, is if I go out and plant a tree in the right of way, does that become a city tree or?
Yes.
Okay. So someone could have thought that they planted the tree, therefore they could remove it.
Mm-hmm.
And just to clarify, Tim, you're mentioning, maybe I'm wrong, but you mentioned that there won't be punitive actions, just the notification, because I see that on the document, there might be fines to the responsibles.
Correct. I'm not sure how I said that. I may have not presented that very clearly, but essentially what we would like to do in these two instances, which is a little bit of a separate issue from what we're proposing, but is basically get a corrective action to replace the trees. And Aaron would work on the specifics of the notices of violation afterwards in terms of the value of what that would be, what that would take us to do, and work on the specific notice of violations and then route that through Daniel Dixon, our counsel, before going out. And then if there is an appeal to the notice of violation, that would come forward like a typical tree removal appeal, and then the board would hear any appeals in that fashion, similar to how we heard a tree appeal in February, I think it was.
So yeah, thank you, Tim. So besides the agreement of replacing or correcting the action, so there might be also the fine could be also a money for doing this without the due process.
It could be, yes. And I'm not saying whether we're necessarily pursuing that here, but the city code does allow up to $2,500 in a fine.
Okay.
I have a couple of more questions. I apologize, but now I lost my train of thought. So one issue seems to me is what ability, or what ability is not the right word, what efforts do we take to educate the public about the requirement that they not deal with trees that are in the city right of way? And also, what efforts do we take to educate or alert people like tree trimmers or others that take down these trees? Because it seems to me once the tree is down, we're out of luck. So I guess my question is, what education are we doing to hopefully this doesn't happen? And secondly, both of the landowner and of the tree company.
That's a great question, and I'm going to have Aaron help out with that in part, because we've been talking about that. As you know, we've had neighbor complaints and calls saying, "Hey, this is Tree City USA. You can't just let people take trees down, where they choose to if they don't belong to them." And we completely agree and understand with that, and think we need to have a fair process in place. At the same time, we want to make sure people are educated, so it's not an aha, gotcha kind of thing. Aaron and I talked about that, and I talked specifically about how it would be much easier to educate the trimmers and the contractors to some level. Aaron, do you want to kind of speak to that a little bit?
Yeah, so I think you're totally right where there's this side, but there's also the preventative side, which is educating people on that this is even a requirement, especially in the case where it is not clearly delineated as a tree lawn. So right now, we have the tree work permit listed on our website. It's in a FAQ and it's in the ordinance. I think this year I need to focus on kind of spreading that information and disseminating it to tree contracting or tree work contractors throughout the city via email. And I think potentially in other places, HOAs and neighborhood associations as well, letting them know, because a lot of times those are individuals who are hiring contractors to conduct this work. On the other side, I'm looking to update the actual tree work permit itself to make it a little bit more user-friendly, and hoping to work within our department and work with Tim on kind of reviewing that and having it go through legal eventually. Other kind of aspects would just be, maybe if we want to do something with social media or anything like that. But as it stands, it's on our website and it's in the code, but it's not something that we're actively sending out notices to people that it exists. If someone were to call asking, that's typically how they find out.
I guess my concern is, a tree plot is pretty, I think most of us know that a tree in the tree plot is probably the city's. But for instance, I live on High Street and I have trees all the way along the front of my property that are right on High Street. And I have no idea which of the, in fact, Aaron's, you don't remember, no reason you should remember this, but we actually had you come out to our house and look at some trees to determine whether you thought they needed to come down. We didn't know if they were on city property or not. So how are we supposed to know whether they're on city property or not? And how do you educate those people? And I still come back, I guess my question is, these are not trees that most of us are going to be able to take down ourselves. So shouldn't we really concentrate our education on those who are going to be taking down the trees so they know, hey, there's fewer of them and they ought, it seems to me we ought to, and I know that a lot of those guys come from out of town and all that kind of stuff. So we have those issues, but those, I guess that's more of a comment. So, but I do think education is something that we ought to continue to consider.
I would say to help individuals figure out whether or not it's a city tree or not, there is the tree keeper inventory that was done that kind of does delineate most trees that are within the right of way and in some of our parks, but not necessarily all of them. Otherwise, it is kind of a reliance on understanding your property lines or contacting, say, planning or myself to help understand those property lines.
All right, thank you.
So, Erin or team, so regarding the chapter 1224 with the violations and penalties, that part about the official warning after the violation or the penalty, what does the official warning mean after having, the tree being removed?
In my mind, I think it would function something similar to you get pulled over by an officer and they give you a warning instead of a ticket. It's just it's a written notice. Hey, you have been warned, but we're not seeking any corrective action or fine as a result.
So after the removal, there could be a warning that if this happens again, there will be a penalty of with knowing that the removal was done, it comes with the penalty. So we will have a removal of a tree with an official warning of fine if this happens for next time, or
very much so. That could very much be taken into consideration. If we've warned someone already and they have a repeat action, and that could include the actual vendor that's taking down the tree too, not necessarily just the private landowner. Aaron and I talked about this, and Aaron, we know very well the main tree companies that operate within Bloomington and can communicate with them very well. And Jim kind of hinted at this. We less know a lot of these smaller, sort of two or three person operations that come in and do landscaping work out of a pickup truck. Harder to communicate with them, and so in those instances, an official warning might be merited. And then, were they to be a contractor that once again violates the city's policy, then that could be something that is taken into consideration.
And regarding these companies, the tree removal companies, do they have any requirement to report to the department that a tree has been removed, or it's just something optional for them to mention this?
Well, yes, theoretically, I mean, they would not be able to remove a city tree without consultation. So if they are in doubt, which you know, both of these trees were right up against the road. They were very much close to the roadway and in the right of way. They would be responsible for checking with Erin and potentially getting that permit that she referenced to prune, remove, et cetera. So she would be the consulting party on that.
Okay, so besides the neighbors or other people seeing this, the companies could be also a source of informing the department about a potential removal of a tree, right?
Sure.
Thank you.
One last question for me, I hope. What are you exactly asking us to do today? I'm confused about that. Are we passing it? Are you asking, is this, what are you asking us to do?
Yep, great question. So just to circle back to that, currently we don't feel that we have a great process in place to be able to notify violators of a violation. So part of that is, number one, just reviewing this process that we are using, which we do have a similarly approved abatement process if we need to ask someone to remove a tree that is a public nuisance. And to just reaffirm that technically under code, this falls to the park board or its assigned delegates. And so, you know, in consultation with city council, the assigned delegate can be the parks department, which would function as the, you know, the leadership team, and Erin, who would be in charge of these notices of violation. So affirm the process and affirm parks department as the delegate.
Okay, so we're not creating a new process. We're just saying that we intend to follow our process and that we're appointing Erin to enforce our process.
Essentially, yes. The process was not laid out step by step, and part of that may just be the transition. You know, we had a previous urban forester and some staff transition there, so we're reaffirming the process.
I guess I'm still confused because is this the process, the steps that have always been in place, or are these new steps?
I can jump in here and clarify. This code has been in the books for a long time. We have never been in the position to have to actually implement it. So about 2 years ago, that became the case with tree abatement. And we started to get complaints. We looked at the ordinance and like, oh gosh, this falls on us. And we didn't have a process. All those years, we never had a process. So when this particular situation came up, we were able to say, oh, okay, last time this is what we did. So this is bringing this forward to say, this has always been on the books. We've never had to enforce it. It's never been pushed. But now we have two instances where this has happened. So it was a good time to bring forward, not only to present what's on the books, but also, and this is what our process is going to be with the notice of violation, so that you're aware of, okay, well, here we go.
So Paula, if I can ask, what department or what unit was responsible for following these regulations before?
The Parks Department. This falls on the Board of Park Commissioners, because we both tree abatement and the taking down of public trees falls under our area of responsibility with urban forestry.
So does that
answer your question?
The new thing would be giving designee just one person in charge of the process. Is that the request? If we
right. This responsibility falls under the jurisdiction and the responsibility of the urban forestry area.
I see. And from now on, it would be directly with a person in Parks and Recreation.
Right, and it always has been. We just never had to enforce it. But this, going back to the trees and flora, that has been in place for many years, and it's in our tree care manual. It's our guide, it's our document. So it's always been under parks. What is new is we're bringing this process to enforce it when there's a violation to you.
So what, I again apologize. So what we have done, so in the past, if somebody cut a tree in their tree, in the city tree plot, there wasn't any enforcement about that. Is that what you're saying?
Correct. Our urban forester of many, many years retired 2 years ago, and
Yeah.
and to the best of my knowledge in my position, those instances were never brought to my attention. It wasn't until we had the tree abatement situation come up, and now this one, which I was able to say to Tim and Aaron, oh gosh, we went through this with tree abatement. Let's just pull that up and mirror the process, because we actually had to use it, and it turned out fine. The property owner took down their trees. So this is just a template, a process that we want to just use for now, this situation.
I think that's all fine, and now I think I finally understand it. So, but I think the fact that we haven't been enforcing this for a long time, and now we're going to start enforcing it, reiterates my concern about educating the public. I think, and educating the tree trimmers themselves, because they've gone sort of, I don't want to say with impunity, but they've never had anybody say you can't take these trees down, or at least penalize them for it. So I think we need to educate as part of this. So that would be my only, I'm fine with, now that I understand it, with moving forward with it. But since it's sort of a change in our policy, unofficial policy, maybe we're going to start enforcing. I think we need to let people know that, hey, we're going to enforce this, and this is what you need to know, not only the public, but the tree trimmers themselves.
Okay. Yeah, and I would just agree that it seems like that, thinking of companies that have cut trees down on our property, there are, of course, the Bluestone and places like that are easy to contact, but there is truly the guy like with a pickup truck from Owen County, and his brother-in-law helps him out, and so we got to reach, I don't know how, but somehow we got to reach, everybody that we can who's in the business of cutting down trees in the city. So, all right, are there any other questions for Tim or Aaron about this one?
I was just going to suggest that any of our, as engaged citizens, we can help promote as well. So letters to the editor and all sorts of things like that to notify our neighbors about this. So clearly it's a hot item for all of us. I think we've spent most of our time on this topic. So thanks, Tim and Aaron, for walking us through that and for creating a new process. I think those steps make sense, and we do need to figure out how to educate, and now I'm glad we have a process in place now. So thank you.
I move to approve.
I'll second.
All right, all those in favor, please say aye.
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 All right, motion is carried. Thank you, Tim. We'll finally let you go.
You got me one more time. I'll be back. Thanks.
Okay. And then next up is the partnership agreement with Centerstone for seasonal cruise.
Kathleen?
Yes.
So once again, so this is marked as C15, so it should be B15 for the records.
Okay. And is this Joanna?
It is, yes. Yep. You ready?
Ready.
Yes.
Okay. Well, I am happy to be back to present the our annual partnership with the Centerstone of Indiana, and for contractual services. They have I'll give you a little background. This project began in 2017 with one crew that helped our parks operations staff by traveling around to, I believe it was 4 different properties for a few hours each day, and they would pick up litter and tidy the restrooms and just do general cleanup for us. And we expanded the program in 2018 to include a small crew for the golf course and the landscaping area. And the project has just, in my opinion, as the city landscaper, it has just been a wonderful success. The Centerstone crews have been a huge help to us for the past 4 years. And especially last year, as we were struggling to deal with all the craziness of how to stay socially distanced while landscaping as a crew because of COVID. And we took on responsibility for maintenance at the Switchyard Park. So we were happily, we were funded with Recover Forward funding in the middle of the year last year, and we got an additional landscaping crew with those funds to help us specifically at the Switchyard Park. And anyway, it's been a wonderful thing. The Centerstone staff add a lot to our daily work sites, and it's just been really beneficial to park staff to have them helping us on the job site. And for 2021, we are proposing approval partnership agreement with them for an amount not to exceed $129,625. This would accrue, be funded through the operations division budget, the landscaping budget, the golf course budget, as well as Recover Forward funds. And this would allow us to have crews on site from the early April to the end of October, working various shifts, helping us do all sorts of parks maintenance. And I could talk about this program a lot. It's just, I'll say it again. I feel like it's been really beneficial, and we have really, really enjoyed participating in this partnership the last 4 years. So I'm happy to answer any questions.
Joanna, I remember this was very successful before. Just a couple of clarifications. So does all of the money go towards the hourly rate for the Centerstone clients who work in the program? Are there other costs associated with this?
Basically, we pay their wages, hourly wages, and FICA, and we also out of our individual budgets supply protective gear, gloves, safety vests, whatever tools are necessary on the job. But yeah, this funding is purely for hourly wage and FICA.
Okay, and then do you know, do you have to provide any transportation for these Centerstone clients to get to the park properties, or does Centerstone take care of that?
That is part of our agreement with Centerstone, is that they provide transportation for their crews, as well as an on-site supervisor who works with the crew.
Okay, all right, thank you. I think those are all my questions. Any other board member questions for Joanna?
I have one question, Joanna. So on the document, there is a line that says 2021 January. So I don't know if that is a typo or is something related to the information provided.
I believe that's part of the staff report template. I think it's on the bottom of every page of staff report. So I think I just had such a large staff report that it just merged down into it. I think that's what you're seeing.
Okay. So it's not part of the
No, I think it's in the footer of the document.
Okay.
Okay, any other questions? Otherwise, we'll take a motion on this one.
Move to approve.
Second.
All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Motion is carried. And then Joanna also has the contract, let's see, with Ecologic. And this is B16. We'll just note in case it is marked as C on but this is B16. Oh, no, it's correct. Okay, go ahead, Joanna.
Okay, yes, and I'm happy again to be here as a city landscaper to recommend approval of a contract with Ecologic for vegetation management services at Switchyard Park. The funding for this project would come from the landscaping budget for an amount not to exceed $26,730. A little background on this, Ecologic has been performing invasive plant management services on the Switchyard Park off and on over the last 7 or 8 years, but they were actually hired as the subcontractor during the construction process. to do extensive invasive plant management and restoration activities over 19.7 acres of Switchyard Park. And as you have all heard me say multiple times, that these invasives just never go away. We have to keep managing them. So at the current time, we've really gotten a good handle on the invasives on this location, but we have so much invested in it, and it's such a wonderful property. And we've finally got into the very exciting stage of ecological restoration. Last fall, Ecologic planted over 1,800 trees. And it's just, we're starting to get natives restored, and some of the areas that have been overseeded with native forbs and grasses are starting to take root. And it's critical that we maintain those areas, keep the invasives managed, and also address deer issues. We could either cage the trees, which is very expensive and unsightly, or we can apply deer repellent to keep the deer from eating them, eating our investment. So we opted for the repellent option at Switchyard Park. So this contract would include the maintenance for some deer protection of those tree plantings. And basically this is our crew. My staff are already stretched pretty thin trying to manage all of our other properties, and we're still figuring out how we can take this property on. And we just we don't want to drop the ball, so to speak, on we're winning. So we want to keep up the pressure, and we feel very confident Ecologic has this well in hand. They've been doing this for the past 3 years, and we'd like for them to continue their work there this year. And I would be very happy to answer any questions.
Okay. All right. So you've started controlling it. This is a continuation. And the deer, I guess I'm not surprised, but the deer have already found Switchyard.
Oh, they love it there. Yes. Just like everybody does.
Well, as long as they're done visiting my yard, then that'll be fine. So, okay. Yes, I know it has been a lot for the department taking on all the new tasks at Switchyard. So any questions for Joanna from board members?
So Ecologic is the same company that has been working with the invasive management and restoration in the lakes, correct?
That's correct. Yes, Steve was talking earlier about the vegetation monitoring for the deer. And yeah, yes, Ecologic has been doing lots of work for us in the restoration field on multiple properties.
Perfect, Joanna.
Okay, I think we're ready for a motion on this one.
Move to approve.
Second.
All right, all those in favor, please say aye.
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 All right, and thank you, Joanna.
Yes, thank you all so much.
And then John Turnbull will tell us about the arrangement with 2 local high schools to use Cascades Golf Course.
Good afternoon, everyone. John Turnbull, Division Director of Sports. Before you, I'm seeking approval of really a memorandum of understanding, or basically an agreement of how the high school varsity golf teams use our golf course. And I'll just be real, as simple and brief as I can. We operated under a memorandum of understanding from 2012. So we just wanted to update this. There are 4 little changes. Substantially, it's the same as before, but the 4 changes is one in number 3 on 3.0. So it'd be 3.3, where they are charged for a large green basket at the driving range. Typically that would be about $50 value, but we're offering it at $10 per basket. In the past, we just gave them 2 baskets a day. So we wanted to tie it to some consumption, so there wouldn't be an unlimited amount of consuming at the driving range. And then the number 4 item, in the past, we charged them for the junior pass fee, but now we're charging them $75 for during the girls' season, which is shorter than the boys' season, charging them $100 per player. A junior pass is about $220. So that's a net zero, really. And on their side, we asked them not to occupy more than 4 hitting stations on the driving range because luckily for us, the driving range has become a more significant part of our business since IU's old driving range has been demolished and has been changed. And then the next item, the last item that really was added was that they not excessively practice on one hole on the regular golf course because that wears the turf and creates some maintenance issues for us. Granted, every golf course has a different arrangement with every varsity team. We think this is fair. We think it's fair for them and it works out okay. They both have said we want it for free, but this seems fair to us. So that's my report for you.
And so I'm just picturing 10, I don't know, 12 people on the team going to practice after school. I mean, do they have like tea times reserved, or is it just an understanding that they'll come after school, but that still be available to the public if?
Yeah, good question. This agreement specifies that they have to set tea times with us. And they do. They do in advance. It hasn't been a problem.
Okay. All right. Thanks. And do they have tournaments there as well? Or?
Yes, they do. The dual meets, or what are called tri-meets, they would be 3 teams. We do not charge them for, but in item 3.6, when there is a sectional conference or invitational that takes a large amount of capacity and the tee times for us, we charge a discounted rate of $20 per player for that, because it does take a lot of tee times and a lot of capacity.
Okay. All right, thank you. Any other questions for John?
Yeah, thank you, John, for the report. Just remind me why the fee is higher for boys.
Their season is longer.
Okay.
Move to approve.
I'll second.
All right, all those in favor, please say aye.
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 Right.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, thanks, John. And then B18 is moving to a different time and place. So then D Tuttle will tell us about the partnership with Bloomington Junior League Baseball.
Good afternoon. There we go. Dee Tuttle, Sports Facility Program Manager. Today, I am bringing 4 partnerships at Winslow Sports Complex that I'm seeking approval of. The first partnership is with the Bloomington Junior League Baseball Association, and we have had a long-standing partnership with this group. They serve children ages 5 to 12. They have over 400 players in their program. Last year, of course, the numbers were less because of COVID, but we are hoping that this summer brings another 400 plus into the program. The practices and games are played at Winslow, and then they practice also on Bryant Park 1 and Bryant Park 2 fields. The majority of their games and practices are held Monday through Thursday evenings. And then the weekends are left open for those children to participate in travel programs if they wish to do so. The Junior League actually starts practice tomorrow evening, so they begin in mid-March, and then they will conclude in mid-October.
Okay, all right. Thank you. And we've had these arrangements for quite a long time.
That is correct,
Junior
Kathleen.
and senior league, yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Any questions for Dee? Otherwise, we'll take a motion on this one.
I'll move to approve.
Okay, do we have a second?
Second.
All right, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, so that was B19, which is the Junior League Baseball Association. And then, oh, yes, okay. And then the concessions is a separate agreement, yes.
That's correct.
Okay. Do you have anything else you need to tell us about the concessions agreement or?
It's basically the same partnership agreement that we've had for many years. The Junior League wishes to operate the Winslow North Concession Building, which is on the north side of the park where the junior fields are located. And they use the profits generated from the sales to offset program costs and other related expenditures. So it's pretty basic. They pay two payments, two separate payments, one on July 1st and one September 1st.
Okay. All right. If this is, again, pretty standard we've seen before. So I think if there are no questions, we'll go ahead and have a motion on this one, B20.
Move to approve.
Second.
All right. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
All right. And then Senior League Baseball is up next, Dee.
Correct. The Monroe County Senior League Baseball Association provides youth baseball opportunities for kids ages 13 to 19. They practice and play their games on Field 6 at Winslow Sports Complex. The program serves approximately 70 players, and they play their games Monday through Thursday as well from mid-May through the month of July.
Okay. All right. Any questions for Dee about this one?
Move to approve.
Okay.
Second.
All right. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 All right. And then that motion carries. Finally, Dee will tell us about partnership agreement with Bloomington Football Club.
Yes, this partnership is with the Bloomington Football Club, and they provide soccer to individuals at Winslow Sports Complex on Field 5. They provide an affordable and effective youth soccer program designed to introduce beginner participants to the sport, as well as to provide for skill advancement for the Bloomington community by combining available resources from each party to the agreement. They provide soccer to over 60 youth participants. The program began yesterday, and they will participate Monday through Friday, all the way through the month of November, or until it gets so cold that they cannot play at the complex any longer. And today, Kathleen, we do have Jeremy Sweet with us. He is the director of the program. This is our second year for the partnership. The first year went very, very well. And Jeremy's here to say a few words about his program.
Okay.
Jeremy, you with us?
He should be able to unmute himself.
Okay.
All right. Can you guys hear me now?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry about that. Yes, thank you for having me. Well, first of all, I'd like to thank Dee and John and Paula for allowing me the opportunity to work at the parks. I also want to give a shout out to Dan, the facilities manager over at Winslow. He's been also really great to work with. Dee, I'd like to correct you. I have 150 kids registered currently. So we're kind of bursting at the seams in the use of the senior baseball field outfield. This year, we secured that partnership, which allows me to use some storage, which has been great. In the past 4 years prior to that, I had started in 2016. I would bring all my equipment to and from every practice and set up and take away. So now it's nice to have a little spot to store all the gear. And we've also reached an agreement to allow me to paint the fields and maintain those. So my kids have an actual realistic setup for their sport, and we can train on proper dimension fields and proper goal sizes for the tournaments that we participate in throughout the state of Indiana. Moving forward, I see a need for more room, and I've actually had to turn down multiple families over the last year and a half just based on space restrictions. But I'm interested in creating more youth league opportunities on the weekends as well as adult opportunities. But right now there's just no room. And with the agreement existing still on that baseball field, the infield is just a barrier for that. And, moving forward, I would love to take over that entire field and guarantee a 3-season rental. Currently, I'm doing 5 days a week. And I was able to do that for 5 months, even during the pandemic, starting in July, going all the way until mid-November. So I created an opportunity for quite a few kids and families. And then once there was nowhere to go in the winter, we actually used the parking lots there for street soccer. And we did a running club with about 60 kids each session twice a week. So, looking for outdoor facilities to use in the winter is a big priority of mine. Expanding infrastructure or revitalizing current infrastructure, I see as something that I could help with, especially over there. And then just a general comment about lack of indoor facilities. With Bloomington Soccer controlling the schedule at Twin Lakes and no other options, we're kind of in a little bit of a situation in the winter trying to find safe places for the kids to work. But yeah, that's my spiel. I appreciate your time.
All right.
Thanks, Jeremy.
Yeah. Thank you, Jeremy.
Thank you.
All right. So I think do we have any, if there are no further questions, then we'll take a motion on this agreement.
Just some questions for.
Yes, go ahead, Israel.
So the 12,000 will be for the 3 terms, spring, summer, and fall, right?
Yes, that is correct. Spring, summer, and fall. Yeah, Jeremy runs 3 different seasons, and that is for all 3 combined.
Yeah, I forgot to mention I do summer camps out there as well, which we did for the first year last year during COVID, and there's a lot of room to spread out and create a safe space for everyone to work. But yeah, summer camps, and also I did a mini summer session, which did evening rentals as well.
Right, and regarding the document mentioned that this will begin in March, so I'm assuming this is already ongoing?
It is. He started last night.
Last night. Oh, great. So the 4 to 5 days a week, it means just weekdays, or it also covers the weekend?
That covers Monday through Friday.
All right.
No weekends yet, but definitely in the future, it could occur if he, if Jeremy has some tournaments or some adult play or, some camps, it absolutely could result in play on the weekends.
And regarding, sorry, Jeremy.
Yeah. Thank you. Right now it's, I could put more on the weekend agenda, but I feel like the fields couldn't handle it. It'd just be too much use on that specific area. So in order to ensure that, the fields can survive and the kids are safe, risk-free from injuries, due to poor surface or the grass getting too worn in certain areas. I don't see myself wanting to book any other options, but weekends could definitely be utilized, and then long term thinking of a usable all-weather surface as a major long-term investment, and seeking other grant opportunities with entities like the U.S. Soccer Federation, where they do often match resources. But I see that as getting a 4-season rental potential out of it, because our winters are pretty mild. And like I said, I did do a lot of work in the winter out in the parking lots and with the running club. So, but yeah, I just don't think the fields can handle enough use for all week as well as weekends.
Perfect. When we say affordable soccer program, could we understand that as in the price and also in the scholarships?
I do offer opportunities for scholarships, and I offer sibling discounts. Ultimately, my sessions run about $7 per training, and that goes for select as well as my academy. And so that helps cover coaching costs as well. I have quite a few coaches employed through BFC to cover the amount of children we have, and we try to keep a ratio of about 1 coach to 10 to 12 players.
Thank you. And when you mention the 100, you're saying that right now there are 100 kids in the program. That is,
I have 160 right now. Actually.
Oh, wow!
And I turned down about 15 just because of size and also COVID restrictions. But really, there's nowhere for them to go on the field.
Okay. And in this one. Right. So 160 for the spring season, or are there possibilities for the summer and fall? Are those already booked, or do kids have the possibility to enroll for summer or fall?
Yes, both. Currently, I have on my registration page my summer camp schedule. And then I'll be doing the same thing in the fall that I've been doing. So it's been going every fall, spring, and summer pretty consistently, and my numbers have been about the same. And I just through word of mouth. So it's been a very consistent relationship, and yeah.
Yeah. So Kathleen, I have 2 more questions, if I may. I don't know if.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So yes, quick question regarding the scholarships. Is there any kind of requirement for families wanting to enroll the kids, and also per day? We're talking about weekdays, and per day, how long does it take the session or the training?
Well, for my academies, I run. There's no prerequisites. For academy, that's my recreational division. It's for all players. Our select has the prerequisite of being assessed for your skill level, because they do compete and travel. But otherwise, there's nothing. There's no prerequisites regarding the time spent. The academy, they run an hour session, and I give 15 minutes between, so people can leave the facility for COVID, and then the next hour goes. So that tends to be about 3 hours, 3.5 for me to clean up. And then on my select trainings, they train for an hour and a half each, so I'm there for about 4 hours.
Thank you, Jeremy. Thank you, Dee. No more questions from you.
Thank you, Israel.
Okay. All right. And do we have a motion on this one, B22?
I move.
I'll second.
All right, all those in favor, please say aye.
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 All right, motion is carried. Thank you, Dee.
Thank you, Kathleen. Thank you all.
And we have one more item under B, and we're going to get to that, and then we are over our usual time, so we're going to move our reports. So we will get to a couple of awards here at the very end, and then always, if there's any public comments here at the very end of the meeting, we can go to that very briefly too. So Kim Clapp, you want to tell us about this review of the credit card refund process?
Yes, I will. This is a little unusual. I'm used to being behind the scenes here, so. Hello, everyone. I'm Kim Clapp, Office Manager. Staff recommends approval of including the reporting of credit card refunds to Section A, consent calendar of the Park Board agenda. In order to provide a quicker, more efficient refund process for customers, refunds may be credited back to the original credit card through RecTrack Bloomington Parks and Recreations Department's registration software. These refunds are not included in the claims registers, which are presented to the Park Board as part of the consent calendar. The Controller's Office has reviewed our refund process and requested that the credit card refunds be presented to the board for review and approval. To meet this request in the easiest way, we thought just running a RecTrack refund report and including that with the consent calendar would be the easiest way of doing that. I do want to let you know too, when you look at this refund detail report, it does list all refunds on there. And the way you can tell the difference is under the refund type, if it says refund now, that is going back to the credit card. If it does say finance, that is being processed. A check will be processed through the Controller's Office for those. Okay. I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Yeah, I'm just curious. It certainly seems like a good idea for us to be aware of the refund. I mean, I'm certainly nothing in the Parks Department, but I have seen news stories, other organizations over the years of some untoward things happening with refund processes. So what happened before? Did the refunds go through the RecTrack process, or was something else happened? Or
We're really not changing the refund process itself any. What we're doing is changing, we want to include this report for the board, so they have that available to them. The refund process is strictly the same as we have always done, and we do have checks and balances for our refunds. So if someone needs to drop out of a program or an event, they have to actually go to the programmer to ask for that refund. The programmer then has to complete a form and fill it out and send it to front staff. So we have a check and balance there. So no one can just go in and do a refund for their friend. It has to be approved and follow through the proper channels. So this is just another way of having the refunds reported. So we're just sending them to you for that final approval.
Okay. All right, thank you. Any questions from other board members for Kim? Okay, all right. I think we'll go ahead and take a motion on this one then.
Move to approve.
A second.
All those in favor, please say aye.
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 All right, that motion is carried. Thank you, Kim. And then Paula, did we want to move over next into the Bravo Award from here?
Yes, that would be great. And I know Sarah Owen is on the call. There she is, and she'll be presenting both awards.
Hi there. Sarah Owen, Community Relations Coordinator. To start off, we would like to recognize one of our exemplary volunteers. Unfortunately, she could not be with us for the meeting tonight, but this is Mary Jean Capiello. She is currently one of our park ambassadors, and she has been the park ambassador of Olcott Park since 2017. And during that time, over the past 4 years, she has put in over 120 hours at her assigned park. The park ambassador role is essentially acting as an extension, a citizen representative of the Parks Department. We asked that our ambassadors commit, or well, originally we asked them to commit to a year of service, but that has recently been increased to 2 years of service. And Mary Jean has renewed with us for another term, which means that she'll extend into 2023 at Olcott. And we ask that our ambassadors visit their assigned park at least once a week to engage with park users, answer any questions about amenities at the park, and also to provide us monthly reports of any maintenance or vandalism needs, things like that. So our ambassadors are a real help to us in terms of being eyes and ears at the parks. This program began in 2011 and was focused on our parks that are multi-use, have a lot of amenities that will draw in a crowd, such as Butler, Bryan, RCA, Olcott. And we actually expanded that to Winslow Woods and Winslow Sports Park in 2019. And we are continuing to expand the program as we are currently looking for an ambassador for the Switchyard Dog Park starting this term. So we just wanted to extend our appreciation to Mary Jean, and we'll be mailing her her Bravo Award certificate in the mail. And while she couldn't be with us today, she wanted to extend her thanks. And we were excited to keep working with her.
All right. Thank you, Sarah. That's excellent. That's a lot of time devoted to Olcott Park. And we really appreciate that from Mary Jane.
Yeah,
so,
absolutely.
Yes.
All right. And then next up is the Parks Partner Award. Let me reach for my other award to display to the camera. This would be for Sterling Real Estate. And this is in recognition of their ongoing support for the Performing Arts Series. Trish Sterling is the owner of Sterling Real Estate, and she began sponsoring the Performing Arts Series in 2017 as a gold level sponsor. And since that time, each year, she's actually since upgraded to the platinum level sponsor and has been a consistent sponsor ever since, including going into the 2021 season. And Trish, I know, really appreciates getting together some friends and going to the concerts in the park, and really makes the most of it. And she also has served on our Parks Foundation board since 2015. So this also is included as an appreciation for her service to the Park Foundation. So thankfully, Trish could be with us this evening, and I think she might want to say a couple words.
Okay, great.
Hi. I don't know if you guys can see me. There I am.
Yes.
That's really nice of you. Thank you for the recognition. And I really thank what you're doing for our town. I have to sell this town weekly to people moving here. They're, being interviewed by IU, the people retiring here. And pre-COVID, I used to drive them around and show them the different parks as a big part of our city. But, I fill a bag full of stuff about kind of our culture, our life here, and how there's reasons we can enjoy our lifestyle here. And this is a big part of it. I'm a big fan of the parks and how you guys maintain them. It's just beautiful product. And thank you very much. So I'm happy to be there. And I love your concerts in the park. That's my favorite. Thank you.
Thanks, Trish.
Mhm.
Yeah, thank you, Trish.
Thank you, Trish.
Thank you. Bye.
Congratulations, Trish.
All right. Yes. Thank you very much for those sponsorships and serving in other capacities with us. So let's see, before we go back over to Paula, towards the end here, do we have any public comments on email or the Facebook Live or any hands raised?
Nothing in my email.
Okay.
There is a Facebook Live comment with a question rather about the street tree boundaries. So I'm going to reach out to that person directly and have her get in touch with Erin to get her questions about boundaries answered.
Okay. Yeah, that would be great. Erin would be the expert on that. So, all right. Well, thank you. We'll go back over to you, Paula, to wrap us up. And thank you for hanging on, everyone, through a long agenda, but important things to get done here in the spring. So.
Yes, well, no, I'll be very brief. Thank you all, and thank you for the extra time this evening. And we look forward to our next Park Board meeting, which will be Tuesday, April 27th. Same time, same place, same format.
Okay. All right. Okay, great. Well, thank you, everyone. And we're adjourned for the March meeting of the Bloomington Board of Park Commissioners.
Thank you.
Thank you.
you.